right. Future use, this will be made part of a library of webinars for those coming after us. We are talking about creating and using effective rubrics in Blackboard today. I just want to warn you straight out, I have 2 monitors, so if I'm looking away from you, it's not personal, it's just so I can see everything going on. Okay. So my name is Mandy Taylor. I am an instructional designer with Academic Technologies and Innovation. I'm also a former lecturer for the English and Natural Science departments here at CSUSB. So I do have a teaching background as well. So effective rubrics, part of what I want to talk about today, I was hoping to talk about is a little bit of the what and why of rubrics, how you have used rubrics in the past, if you have used them, if you haven't used them, how you might be planning to use them. We'll talk about a few best practices, but we'll spend the majority of our time in Blackboard looking at how to create rubrics in Blackboard. We'll look at the original course view, and if we have time, we'll look at the Ultra course view as well. So that's where we're headed. So if you wouldn't mind telling me a little bit about your experiences with rubrics and what and how you have used them in your courses.
I use them to grade my projects. I use them to grade my cases. The students have the rubrics, and then when I grade the case, I give them back the rubric and everything highlighted, blah, blah. Everything, so they know up front, students know up front what I'm gonna grade them on. Mm-hmm. So the project has a rubric, so.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
And I would just say ditto to the same thing. I have rubrics for various assignments. They turn in, they have it ahead of time. They turn in the assignment with the rubric. I mark on the rubric, make comments on their paper, and turn it back. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that on Blackboard.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I use them in the same way. I've also led some workshops on aligning assignment design to rubric design. Because I found that that's sometimes overlooked.
Yes.
And it can be tricky to align assignments to rubrics to classroom activities.
Yes, yes it can. Thank you, that's helpful. Knowing how you've used rubrics, how you want to use rubrics. So the majority of what we'll be looking at today is the actual creation of rubrics in Blackboard. Have any of you actually used the Blackboard rubric generators? No? Okay, so that may be mostly where we start or stay today. And if we have more time, we'll talk about different ways we can use rubrics as well. I'll demonstrate creation as well as how to associate them with an assignment and how to grade with them. Okay. So first, though, let me talk a little bit about some best practices with rubrics and just going over those. These may be things you already know, but just best to talk about them anyway. So best practices have a clear and specific criteria and understandable language. Students need to be able to use your rubric as well as you. And it sounds like you've done that. Students have used your rubrics before. Have a manageable number of objectives. I've seen rubrics as a student, both undergrad and graduate, with a whole lot of objectives with tiny font and a lot of columns. Like, I don't know how to write my paper anymore because it's like, it's just really hard to know how to meet those requirements if it's not a manageable number. Tailoring rubrics, as Professor Marshall was talking about, making those tailored to the assignments, and have them line up is important and can take some time to do. But the more tailored, the more useful to the students, I would argue. And then if possible, and if this fits your teaching style and your teaching plans, have students involved in the creation process of the rubric as well. Have them brainstorm things, maybe give them categories. Like, this is what I'm looking for. What do you think makes for an A, or however you're going to grade or assess. At the very least, as some of you have already mentioned, allow students to interact with the rubrics beforehand in a peer review or a self-assessment, or at least have it available for them to look at before grading with it, so that they know that there's a rubric coming with the grade and that they know what to expect. Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add or ask at this point?
I post my rubric online, so they have a chance to look at it if they ever do.
Great. I would highly encourage that. And you can still do that in Blackboard. And you can also, once it's attached to an assignment, they have the option to look at it before they submit the assignment as well. All right. Shall we dive in? All right, let's go. So again, just what we're going to be in. We're going to start with Blackboard Original Course View. And then if we have time, is anyone using Ultra for your courses? Okay, Professor Norton, we will try to get to Ultra today. If I don't, and you want to learn more about the rubrics, we can make an appointment to talk Ultra, okay? All right, so let me share my screen. Give me 1 second to manage my technology. That's probably the easiest. Sorry, it's already been a bit of a long day. All right. Okay. So I need to move a couple of things. All right, so we are in a Blackboard course. You see the Blackboard course, correct? Yes. All right. I just want to keep double checking what you can see so I can make sure you're with me. All right. So in the Blackboard original course, you have your course menu to the left-hand side. Under course management, this is the instructor section, excuse me. Under course tools, and you will scroll down to rubrics on the left-hand side. Okay. And this will bring you to the, excuse me, the rubric creation page, or kind of the menu. You'll see I already have some rubrics here, right? It's okay if yours is blank. I'm going to show you how to create. So create rubric. Let me maximize my screen a little bit. Every rubric needs a name. That's required. So we'll call this demonstration rubric. For best practice, I would recommend that you also give a description of the rubric. Just helps you keep things straight in your list of rubrics so you know what it's for. Also, students can have a better idea of what the rubric is actually for as well. So I will show you a more fleshed out rubric after we go through the demonstration. Okay. So rubric name, rubric description, and in Blackboard Original, the default rubric view is a 3x3 grid in percent. Okay. So you have 3 criteria. Formatting, organization, and grammar are already populated. You can edit that as you so choose. You also have 3 levels of achievement, or grade levels, however you want to call it. I might use those terms interchangeably. So let me know if I start confusing you with my terminology. That's not my intent. Okay. Levels of achievement are by default lowest to highest. You can change that as well, depending on what you want to do. Okay. So before we customize or add anything to this, we have 5 different rubric types in original course view. You have no points, so this could be more descriptive in nature. Points, each column has a certain number of points. I use this for discussions. And you can have various number of points per column. Point range, percent, and percent range. So depending on your purposes for the rubric and what you're assessing, you have multiple choices here for the rubric type. Any questions at this point? All right. Yes, please.
I would just ask, I know would this be similar to what Ultra offers as well, the points and the percentages and that?
Ultra only offers percent and percentage range. I know. We've given, I'm sorry, say that again.
And it can't be changed?
Not at this time. We have made the feedback that we're hoping for a points-based rubric, but at this time in Ultra, it's just percent or percent range. I'm sorry.
Can it be nothing?
I have not tested that yet. I want to say no, but we can test that together and check.
Okay.
Okay? All right. That's my best answer right now. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So let's stay with percent range for sake of demonstration. And one thing to point out before we start customizing, percent and percent range in original do show criteria weight. That blue check box is checked by default. That means that in the rubric, when the rubric is done, students will be able to see how much weight a particular column or a particular criterion has for this. Okay. By default, Blackboard tries to balance the weights. When you first get that, if you start adding rows, it will not automatically balance. So I'll show you what I mean when we start creating. Okay.
Mandy?
So yes, please.
Just a quick question. So if I'm reading this right and we're looking at the formatting row, and we have a percent-based rubric type, students would be getting, say, 80% of that 33%.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I just wanted
Yes.
to make sure that was right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And when we go through a grading demonstration, you can see what that actually turns into points-wise if you have points related to that. I'm sorry, I haven't eaten, so if you hear my stomach growl, that's why. All right. So let's start customizing. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the rows or the columns from highest to lowest. I'm going how I would tend to use a rubric. So again, based on your own preferences, you can change that as you wish. So to change any order of the columns, you go to Levels of Achievement button here. This is a reorder button. And you can reorder or put them into any order as you wish. You can move them one at a time by selecting the little button next to the name and then moving the arrows this way. Or if you want to fully reverse the order, there is an option at the very right, reverse order button, and then it'll put them from highest to lowest and submit. Okay. So now we have an order from highest to lowest levels of achievement. If you wanted to add a column, okay, you click add column or select add column. The new columns are always added on the right of the rubric. And this will be similar in Ultra as well, new columns. Oh, no, actually, Ultra is a little bit different, so let me take that back. In Ultra, you can add columns, but you do it a little bit differently. So you add column, you'll get the little purple bar that says column added. Click that to say, acknowledge that you did it. And then to edit the names, because we need a name for that column, you have the down chevron next to every name on every column and every row. That chevron indicates that there's a menu that you can choose from. We're going to select edit. We'll call this one strong and submit. Strong comes between proficient and competent. So we're going to move strong over. And so we have proficient, strong, competent, and novice. And you can use letters here if you have A, B, C, D, F, or however works best for you. You can customize it as you choose. Okay. And let's just go ahead and add a row as well. So you select add row, and the row is added at the bottom of the rubric template. And we will edit the name of our new row to attention to prompt. Okay, and notice the new row has a default 0. So you need to give it a percentage. So you can either figure out how you want to weight every category. If everything is the same for you, you can select balance weights at the bottom, and it will automatically balance 100% between all of the rows that you have available. And also something you can do is you can move the criteria up and down. It's not always the case, but we tend to read hierarchically. So what's at top seems the most important, even if all the things are balanced. So maybe we want to make sure that attention to prompt is seen first. So we can click the criteria reorder panel, attention to prompt, and move it with the arrows. We also have the reverse order button available to us. So that's how you move rows and columns, is using these buttons as well. All right. Questions so far? Just want to make sure I'm not going too fast. If I start going too fast, just jump in and say, Mandy, stop. Okay. So what we also need to do is decide in our percentage range for each grade or each level of achievement. Okay, the proficient or the highest, whatever you call it, has to have 100% as the highest. Okay. So we're going to go 90 to 100, strong is 80 to 89, competent will say 70 to 79, and novice will have a really large range between 0 and 69 just for demonstration purposes. Okay. We could add another column and have a more quote unquote standard 10% variation, but we'll just keep it this way for now. And you have to do that for each row. It does not automatically populate. Unfortunately, I wish it did. Okay. So give me just a moment to do that. You also want to make sure that these are standard so that whatever your standard is, so that the calculation is done correctly. Otherwise, weirdness can happen. All right. So far, please.
Your grammar row has a 0 to 100 in the.
Thank you very much.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure.
All right. So that's something you also want to make sure of too. When you don't do it right, stop yourself. Thank you for pointing that out. All right. So what else is missing?
The descriptions, right? The criteria.
Yes, yes. So because it's easier to copy, we're going to say, we'll call it characteristics or the description. So you don't have to answer me right now, but this is something you need to answer for yourself while creating your rubric. What does proficient attention to prompt mean? What does that look like? How could students do that on their paper? So what does that mean? So everything needs characteristics. So I'm just going to copy that in, and you would do that and be as detailed as possible in the space that you have. You have more space than it looks like when you do this. And I'll show you again a more fleshed out one in a little bit. Okay.
So is there a character limit?
I want to say you have about 400 characters, if not more, in each box. I haven't tested the limit of that, but we can try that if you wish. But
Yeah, it's okay.
okay.
If
Yeah.
I keep typing and it doesn't fill in, I know I've reached my limit, right?
Exactly. And then you might either want to start a new column or you might want to, just condense it as much as possible.
Yeah.
I have just In my own testing, I have gotten to 50 columns and 60 rows in my rubric. Not that I'd ever really use that, but it was just testing capacity. So you have a lot of space that you can work with. Okay. But you also, in your characteristics or your criteria descriptions, you want that to be also manageable for you and your students. So it makes sense to both of you that what you're going to use. All right. So a brief recap of what we've done is we've gone from our rubric default grid of 3x3 to a 4x4% range. We added the attention to prompt row and we added the strong column as this. And so everything has characteristics. These would of course be fleshed out. And so now our rubric is ready to submit. So you submit and you'll have a list of rubrics populate. They populate in alphabetical order. And so it can become important what you name your rubrics. Okay, so if you are making a template that you want to copy, you might want to say rubric template so that you know that you're just going to copy it and edit it, which you can do. So now that we have it created, we open it. So this is what you would see, or what students would see as well. So we have our attention, all of our criteria, and our levels of achievement across. Okay. And you could print this to PDF and save it, so you could put it in like a rubrics folder if you wanted to, or something like that if you so chose. So we'll close that. You also, next to every rubric name, you have that down chevron, which gives you the menu. You can open, you can edit. Say, for example, if David hadn't caught my 0 to 100% in that particular column, and I caught it later, I could go in and edit. I can copy the rubric, and then it populates as copy of whatever rubric you copied. Okay. I'm going to delete that. You can delete. This view associated content, once you have associated it with an assignment or put it with an assignment, you can see where it's being used in Blackboard. Okay. So now let us create an assignment that we can associate that rubric with. So we'll go to assignments, and I have a couple already here, but we're going to create one anyway, so we can go through the whole process. So we create assignment. So demonstration assignment. Oh, that's some instructions. Submit assignment here. Would of course be more as detailed as you desire. Assignment files, this is just anything that you would want students to see in addition to your instructions. You need a due date. I'm going to make it due on Halloween because I'm mean that way. At 11:59 p.m. they have all night. It's 100 points. And here is what can get overlooked. This is where you add the rubric, the associated rubric. And it has to be a rubric that you've created in Blackboard. Okay? You can't add an external rubric that you created outside of Blackboard. If you have that type of rubric, you could use it in attached files. But here are the Blackboard rubrics. So we'll select rubric, demonstration rubric. Okay. And now we see which rubric that we've associated with this assignment. We can view the rubric here in case we want to look at it one more time and make sure that we've associated the right one. You can also edit the rubric from this window in case you're like, oh, right, I missed that. It's like, let me make sure my columns are correct. Okay. The type of rubric, is it used for grading or for secondary evaluation? You can have in or Blackboard Original, but not in Ultra. You can have multiple rubrics attached to an assignment, but only one of them can be used for grading purposes. And so maybe you have something used for a self-check or something like that, or maybe it's just something that is a little bit extra. Okay? But primarily rubrics are going to be used for grading. It'll tell you when you last edited that rubric. And then here is where I would recommend paying attention as well, is this show rubric to students area. That you show the rubric to students with the rubric scores so they can see everything that is available on the rubric before they submit their assignment. And we'll go to our submission details. It's habit for me to give maximum or 2 attempts.
Mandy,
Yes. Yes.
back to the show rubric to students.
Yes.
Okay, it says yes with rubric score.
Yes.
That says to me the student is going to see the rubric and how I've identified their score.
Yes.
How
Yes.
is that different from after grading?
They won't see it until after it's graded. So the yes with rubric scores means I can see the rubric before I submit my assignment, and I can see everything that's along with it.
So it's so it's just,
It's blank.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's blank, but they would see the criteria weights. They would see all the numbers attached. Without scores, they just see that there's a rubric, but there are no scores
Okay,
of
gotcha.
any kind. And then after grading, they can't see it until you've graded, but then they will see everything that's available on the rubric. And then no, they won't see it at all.
Okay. So why would you, I don't understand why you would have those choices, and maybe it's not relevant, so I don't know.
So it's a matter of visibility of when you would want students to see the rubric at all, because you can associate a rubric and use it for grading, but never show the rubric to students.
Oh, well, I would never do that, but okay.
I know, I'm just saying that's an option.
Yeah, okay.
But I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's kind of why I would just say, yes, we want them to see it, and we want them to see everything that's available.
And do you have to come back and change it to after grading so that they could ultimately see the grade, or no?
No, you do not have to change it. This is
just for when they're first looking at the assignment and the rubric.
yes.
Okay.
So when I go into student preview and submit an assignment, I'll show you what they can see with yes with rubric scores. Okay, good question. Other questions at this point? Okay. All right. So let us submit the assignments link so we can then go in and submit an assignment as a student. Okay. So demonstration assignment on instructor side, we have created the assignment for students to go in and now submit something. If you have not used student preview before, be a brief crash course in student preview. So you want to enter student preview. It's a little eye icon up at the top. And this will let you see what your students see. So if you haven't used this, this is a good way to test what's going on in your course. This is also a way you can test your own assignments and you test your own tests as well. So, but you can only see what is available to your students. So in assignments, we go to demonstration assignments. Okay, and this is what they see, their submissions. So we see it's due on Halloween. Thank you, Professor. Points possible, and they can view the rubric here. So I can view rubric. And again, this is just a demonstration one, so there's not a lot of detail here. But I can see that these are the 4 things that I'm going to be graded against or graded on, and these are the grading levels or the grading levels that I could get. So it's 22.5 to 25% is proficient range because we gave it a percentage range. And that will translate to the points when you as an instructor grade. Okay. So let's submit something. Now, as a student, I have submitted. I will get a confirmation number. I will also get an email confirmation that I have submitted. Yay. I can go to my grades and see what's going on. Okay. I can see here that I have 3 things that have been submitted. One of them has been graded. 2 need to be graded. You can tell that by the yellow circle with the exclamation point. I can again look at the rubric here. And after something is graded, this is where I can come back and see the rubric and see my grade. Yes. Did you have, Professor Seitz, did you have a question?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Oh, okay. It's okay. Sorry, I just saw you. Oh,
I know. I'm
okay.
waiting for somebody. Sorry.
God, no, it's okay. I'm just attuned to the raise of hand, so I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something. Okay, thank you. All right. So let's exit the preview. And if you do test your own material, you want to make sure you keep the preview user and all data. And now we can go to our grade center. Grade center. To needs grading. And you can see everything that's waiting to be graded. We're going to ignore the discussion that needs graded for now. And we're going to go to the demonstration assignment. All right, let me maximize my screen here so you see a little bit better. And we see here that the student's submission, and it's in line. So you have all of the information you can go through. You can make comments, you can do all different types of things. In the draft itself. Okay. And then when you're ready, you have over here that attempt to grade where you would normally go in to get ready to type in a grade. It's going to open that blue box, okay, which is the grading panel itself. It will be grade by rubric, and this is where you would open your rubric. I know it's a little bit tiny. So you would click on the rubric link. It's going to open the levels of achievement or the grading. You would select show descriptions to get more criteria, to get the description of that criteria. So you can choose better, more efficiently, I guess. You can also show feedback. You can have feedback per section of the rubric. So maybe you have specific feedback to the attention to prompt portion of the rubric. You can type it in there if you wish, or you can give general feedback at the end of the rubric. Okay. So we're going to say attention to prompt was proficient. Because it is a range, it's going to default to the middle of the range. Okay. So you will want to go through and select the proper placement in the range for the student's work. We'll just say formatting was also proficient, but on the lower end, organization was strong, on the higher end, and grammar was proficient about here. Okay. So that's it is calculating the scores for you. So again, it's that 23.25% of the 20 of that particular range. Right. So Blackboard has calculated a raw total for you. Then it will be up to you to determine whether or not you're going to round that grade. Professor Norton, you have some consternation on your face. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I just never would use a range
Oh,
in
okay.
a category. So I'm trying to just put it into how I would use it. I mean,
Okay.
So in my brain, the columns already have identified, if I've created the rubric carefully anyway, those columns have identified and those cells have identified. So it's either this or it's that. So
Sure, and that's absolutely a choice.
So that was why my brain was,
Okay.
my face
That's-
was going crazy.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something, but yeah. So
No,
if you,
I understand it. This is what I was looking to find out today. So that's
okay,
helpful.
good. Yeah, so if you just had a straight percentage, and we can look at that in Ultra if we get there, or I can talk with you more of that too. The straight percentage, it would just calculate the straight percentage. But because we have the range, you have to choose the range in that particular column. So, all right. Okay, so we just decreased their grade a little bit, but it'll give you a raw total if you're using, and even if you have a strict percentage, depending on how you weight each column, it may still give you several decimals of numbers. Okay, so I'm going to round up because that's just how I work. If you do any rounding, I again recommend that you tell students that that's what you're going to do, so they understand what's going to happen, because they can also see this on the rubric that the grade was changed. And if you round down, you might get those emails of like, hey, how come this happened? Or you know how emails can be. Okay, so we need to save the rubric. Saving the rubric populates the numerical score in the grade box here. It does not submit the grade, it just populates the score here. And so if there's additional feedback that you want to make in addition to what's on the rubric, you can do that here. Receive rubric for feedback. When you're done with all of this, you can double check the rubric if you want to, then we submit the grade. Yes.
I'm making the assumption that if I wanted to make a comment right on their paper, I can do the same thing as I have done before. Okay.
Yes, that's what those inline tools were for. So you have different ways to comment on the paper itself in the draft. You can also use the rubric and the learner feedback box to give feedback. Yes, absolutely. All right. Other questions, please?
I have a question. Once you submit that, because I've graded on that, but I've never used the rubric. And so can the students come back in and look at their score on Gradebook and see the rubric?
Yep, I was just about to go there. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. All right. So let's double check our own gradebook on the instructor end, see what we can see. So full gradebook. It's going to work. Yes. Blackboard needs lunch, apparently. All right. Or my internet does, one of the two. So we can see here that we still have something to grade for this student, but we'll do that another time. And then they have 92 on that demonstration assignment in our rubric, or in our gradebook. So let's go back and be a student so we can see what students see. So students will go to My Grades. Okay. And then they can check everything here. So we see 1 has been graded, 2 have been graded. So the demonstration assignment has been graded. Click on the blue little chat bubble, and that's going to bring up any written feedback that was made in that blue learner box. Oh, I just froze. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. In the blue learner box or on the rubric itself. So we will click out of that. And then we can look at the rubric. We still have to do rubric. I'm sorry, my connection seems to have been slowed down. So And we can view the rubric and we can see here that on attention to prompt, I got 24.25% or 25% on that one. Okay. And I can see that my score was overridden. And I can see any feedback that my instructor may have left for me. All right. Are there any questions at this point? So that is what students can see. So let me go back to rubrics, if I can, to show you a more fleshed out rubric. My background is in writing and composition teaching, so I have a grading criteria for writing rubric that I used in my classes rather quite often. And it's very similar. I used percentage range, so I have the choice of kind of where students fell in that. But I had attention to prompt, organization, level of detail, and mechanics and formatting. And this is where you start fleshing out some of those characteristics in the rubric and how you can do that. Okay. Let me show you one other thing. This is how that rubric began, as a Word document. And this is what I used to use with my students. When I was able to distribute things in person, this was really easy to give back and just kind of say, here's what's going on, here's what I can give you. Right. And so in Blackboard, to make that work better, I had to decide which of those criteria I was really looking for. And everything boiled down into these 4 areas to make it manageable. And these are the descriptions for that. This is much easier to grade with than the Word document. So that is a fleshed out rubric. Is there anything else you'd like to see in Blackboard Original View before we take a quick look at Ultra? No? All right. Can you hear and see me? I'm having issues on my end. We're good? Okay. Sorry, just making sure. All right, so let us take a quick look at Blackboard Ultra. If I can get that to go over. Let me stop sharing for just a moment. Thank you for your patience. I'm having some issues on my end with my technology. All right. All right, so welcome to Blackboard Ultra. Okay, if you have not seen this or worked with this before, really quick introduction. You'll see some of the major differences. You no longer have the course navigation panel that is in original view. Okay, those functionalities have been shifted to different areas. Okay, where we want to concentrate is up in this right-hand navigation area. Okay, we are on the course content page. This is your calendar. This is discussions. And then we want to go to the gradebook. And the gradebook is a piece of paper with kind of a pen or pencil nearby. Okay.
So you would need to be in each course. You would start
Yes.
with the course and go to gradebook.
Yes, for Ultra. Yes. That's the smoothest way to get to rubrics at this point. And then you go to the settings gear or the gear or cog icon. And I'm sorry, my screen is taking a while to load. So gradebook, then settings. And in the gradebook settings, there's a section for course rubrics in that navigation tab or navigation menu. And select create new rubric. And once you are in the rubric builder in Ultra, the process is very similar. You still need to name your rubric. Otherwise, the default is going to be new rubric and the date that you opened the new rubric. So if you don't give it a new name, it's going to default to new rubric 10/15/20 today, or whatever date you're using it. Demonstration. Okay, demonstration rubric number 3, because I have a few populated already in Ultra. In Ultra, you only have 2 choices, the percentage or percentage range for rubric types at this time. Again, we have made that feedback to Blackboard that points-based would be awesome. But if it's coming, we're not quite sure when. We're hopeful. If I hear when it's coming, if it's coming, I will reach out and let you know as soon as I find out. Okay. So you have in Ultra, it defaults to a 4x4 grid. And highest to lowest. To add a row or a column, so to add a row, you see the little plus sign in a circle that's purple above each. You just kind of have to hover until you see that appear between each name on the criterion. Okay. And when the plus sign with the circle appears, you can add something there. All right. And we'll call it new criterion for sake of argument at the moment. And it's going to be over 5% of the grade, and we'll make criterion 1 20% of the grade so that the numbers balance. things like that. So that's how you would add and edit. To edit, you select the pencil icon next to the name.
So if you, in that edit, if you hit the trash can, does it take out that whole row?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. Same with the column. If you hit the trash can next to the column,
Okay.
column goes away. So I just took out or deleted the for column by clicking the trash can on it. So we no longer have that column. If we wanted to add that back, we hover between columns until that plus sign with the circle returns. And we can recreate that column here. So plus sign with the circle to add, okay, and then the pencil is to edit in Ultra. Okay. And then generally speaking, the process is the same as far as building the rubric. As far as grading with the rubric, and we're going to run out of time for me to show you that, but I'm happy to meet you in an appointment to show you grading with the rubrics in Ultra, if that's acceptable to you.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Do I just send you an email or?
Yeah, you can email me. I will also put some information. Yeah, that would probably be best right now. I'm experiencing technical issues on my end, so it's hard for me to share something right now. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so this is, all right, we will go ahead and save this demonstration rubric in Ultra, and then I will show you a more fleshed out version-ish in
Mandy,
Ultra. Yes,
while
please.
you're doing that, can I ask a quick question? There was that that link underneath each criterion row, align with goals.
Yes. So, sorry, is that the question?
Yeah. What
Okay.
I guess my question is, what's up with that?
Okay, so in Ultra, I don't think that it's enabled for CSUSB at this time, but at some point you would be able to put in either course goals or department goals and then do some alignment with that. I don't think that feature is actually active for us yet. We're working on that. So there may be some things that look like they work, but they don't quite work yet.
Okay.
But that's the idea, particularly in K through 12 education and places that might be using Ultra. They could align, do more specific alignment, align that criteria with a specific goal, and then that alignment is taken care of in the rubric.
Yeah.
So that's what that is.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Is
All
there,
right.
is that, but that wasn't on the original view.
No, that's new to Ultra.
Okay.
So in the last few moments that we have, I want to, if this will open, show you a more fleshed out version of a rubric in Ultra. Okay. And so this is that grading criteria for writing rubric that I showed you from original, now in Ultra and as a straight percentage rubric. And so instead of a percentage range, these are the percentages that I assigned to each grading level. Okay, so excellent is going to be 100. The highest one is always 100. You can't make it any lower than that in a straight percentage in Ultra. Okay, but you can then assign different numbers or percentages to the other columns in the straight percentage rubric. Okay, and so then it would be, the 87% of that 30%, again, still applies. But Blackboard will do that calculation for you. And I can show you the rest of that process in an appointment, Professor Norton, so you can see how that calculation works. So, all right. Are there any questions or concerns about rubrics in general or rubrics in Ultra that I can answer at the moment? we're at about the end of our time today. Okay, so let me stop sharing.
It was very helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here. I apologize for any technical issues on your side. Everybody looks frozen to me, but I can hear you. So this will be recorded. Once the recording is ready, it will be available. I can either email it to you or it will be available eventually on the ATI website for you to access. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you
So
so much.
Professor, you're welcome. Professor Norton will get in touch and we'll go through Ultra together.
Okay, and I can just reach you through the ATI.
Yeah, just look for me, Mandy Taylor, and you'll find me.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Mandy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.